watching us, folks. We have to have a little bit of fun around here. So our digital marketing panel, this is an area that I think we need to learn more about how to tell our story better. We're really good at holding events, putting events on, and kicking ass with some great racing events. But I don't always think we're great at telling our story. So we've got a panel here that will give you some great advice on how to do that. And like most of the people here on the panels today, they started out in the audience. And I'm going to let you guys do your own introductions. From Alaska Raceway, Michelle.
Hello, everybody. I am Michelle Lackey-Maynor. I'm the lady track boss at Alaska Raceway Park. We are a quarter-mile NHRA drag strip and a third-mile NASCAR oval track. I've been coming here for 5 years now. I don't know, something like that. So I'm just happy to be able to share with you guys now that I'm finally up here and not out there.
From Digital Throttle, Brian.
Am I on? Okay. Hi, I'm Brian Robb, Digital Throttle. I started Digital Throttle in 2009. We specialize in all types of digital advertising for motorsports, automotive, power sports, a little bit of boating and RV. We work with both race tracks and national organizations with hyperlocal and regional digital advertising.
And a guy who might end up winning the prize as the best mustache on stage. From Grid Life, it's Chris Stewart.
Hey guys, I'm Chris Stewart from Grid Life. So for those that don't know what Grid Life is, we're kind of a music festival promoter smashed together with a sanctioning body. So we do 14 events that are all kind of club racing with a motorsports component and a lifestyle component, kind of bringing car culture and racing together. Former life, I was a group creative director in advertising agencies in Chicago. So Grid Life was kind of a side hustle that like spawned out of that. So definitely we take a kind of a digital and a marketing approach first, you know.
All right, Brian, what are some of the different options that are available right now in the digital marketing space?
Almost too many. So that's part of the challenge, I think, with digital. When someone wants to get started, if we know 10 people, 10 of them all have their own favorite digital, whatever it might be. So that's probably the first thing that's a challenge. There's more platforms than anyone has budget to do. But we focus on the big four. So YouTube, especially in the motorsports world, is really popular for both video and banner advertising. Social is the big one. So that's, of the big ones, and you can name all the social platforms, and the answer is yes. We still do a lot of display banner advertising. And then, believe it or not, search. Search does really well for our clients. A lot of people go to search and say, what's going on this weekend? What can I do with the family this weekend? Sometimes we overlook search because it's kind of boring, it's text-based, but that's really a very large platform to be through.
Michelle, what are some of the methods that you're using up there in Alaska Motorsports Park to get your word out?
Well, to be honest, we actually hired Digital Throttle this last year, which was super fantastic. So we focus a lot on the social media, search engines, of course. We're very, very busy on our Facebook and Instagram, and all of our social platforms, which is hard to do this time of year because we don't have any racing events going on. And then we have a pretty good word of mouth component. We do some other more traditional advertising, but we found more bang for our buck with the digital.
All right, Chris, how tailored does your message have to be with your digital approach to the type of event you're promoting?
I think it's super tailored, right? So we kind of think about the product that we produce as, one, it's an entertainment property, but really it's community, right? We're trying to build kind of gravity around the events and kind of build that. So we start kind of like brand first with like the content strategy, and then figure out where that gets tailored depending on where it's at. So as Brian said, there's so many like digital platforms and so many different places where individuals exist. So honing in on that stuff is tough, and then kind of blanketing it with like a total singular message doesn't always work. And especially with the stuff that we do, we've got kind of separate audiences, right? So we're trying to bring those that have car curiosity like into the motorsports ecosystem. So like talking about racing directly or things like a singular message like that doesn't work for that audience. It has to be like shifted. So it moves from 60-40, 40-60, and then gets tailored individually per platform.
Brian, you talked about how many different platforms are available. Do we need to use them all if we want to hit all the different age groups in our demographic?
Yeah, that's the big one. We have a good example. We have some clients that focus a lot on the kind of carnival aspect of it, so kind of the family friendly, as well as camping. So if you're going to be promoting like, hey, come out and camp for the weekend, the platforms you're going to choose are a lot different. So more family friendly, definitely more mom oriented. So like Pinterest and Reddit for Reddit's more your younger crowd. A lot of our clients say we've got a core following. We really want to get this outer ring. We want to get new people who've never been to the track, guys who are, their kids are finally coming of age where they want to introduce them to motorsports. For those, you have to think a little out of the box. We're kind of biased to always want to focus in on the motorsports stuff that we all know and love, but to get somebody new from the region, it takes a lot.
All right, Michelle, it's confession time here at RTBC. What are some of the biggest mistakes that it's only about racing. What are some of the biggest mistakes that you have made in your digital marketing approach, and how did you solve those?
The biggest mistake I think I have made is just trying to do it all myself. I wear many hats at the racetrack, and I do a lot of things out there. We don't have a big staff or really any staff. And so, setting up my budget, which is very small because we are kind of a small track, and then trying to figure out the best place to put my money on social media by myself has not worked at all. And so the biggest thing that I would recommend for people is that they have a good digital marketing partner, whether you end up hiring somebody who takes it on all for yourself, or you have somebody who can come in on your staff and run your social media and do that sort of stuff for you, because they're going to be better able to place it, and you'll get a lot more for your money that way than I was dumping money into stuff, and I was like, okay, well, this seems like a good idea, and then you don't end up getting any results from that.
Chris, what are some of the biggest mistakes you've made as you've tried to grow Grid Life?
I make mistakes all the time. So I don't know if there's ever been like any like big mistake, but there's a lot of like different like trial and error and stuff that we do. I definitely think I would echo what you said just in regards to like tackling and biting off. All the racetracks that we go to are all small businesses. We're very small. I think a lot of promoters are really small. So like that is one of the things is like not seeking help and not like kind of adding that expertise in is one of the things I think as all of us try to bootstrap, you end up like kind of falling into, and then you can swirl. So I think the other like kind of big, maybe not mistake, but it's like indecision too, like kind of swirling around some stuff. I think too, one of the things with digital is you can kind of like put different content out and different things and like see what sticks before you like put dollars into it. So like sometimes overthinking I think is not a mistake, but definitely like a thing where like stuff can swirl and then you run out of time.
So now it's my turn to kind of pick your guys' brain, because I love that you use the term bootstrapping, because when I think of track owners, I think of bootstrapping entrepreneurs, right? Not massive budgets that the big companies have. And I happen to fall, Dennis mentioned that we're starting our own company. We're bootstrapping, right? Everyone talks about demographics, Facebook is the older demographic, then you get into the Gen Xers and millennials and Insta, and then you get into TikTok, and heard the SEO thing as a business owner. But I kind of want to pick your guys' brain about like tactics. Like I've heard that so many times where it's like I still feel overwhelmed as a business owner. Do you guys feel that way, where it's like, okay, I've heard these things, but where should I start? What should I really talk? How many times should I post? Is it daily, weekly? To actually make an impact, because that's what, as a business owner, like, where do I start? Because there's so many platforms. What would you guys recommend if you could pick, if they had one takeaway, if you gave us one takeaway to do and do really well?
Oh man.
You pick up the microphone.
Yeah, that just was a default. I didn't mean to jump in. I mean, I think that's a hard question to answer. I don't think there's a silver bullet for any one organization or any one business. I think one of the words we use and some of the things that we try to do consistently is like authenticity to our intention. So we like kind of just start there with like that nugget of the brand. Like what are we? Like what are we trying to do? What value do we add to the industry? What are we, who are we trying to reach, and what are we trying to bring to the table? And then figure out what like narratives come out of that, and then usually we let that like kind of determine, or the twist on it determine where it goes. I think when you're starting too, like finding that brand voice to begin with, and then like putting it out in a bunch of different places and seeing what sticks, is probably the key. And then like paying attention to that and being like, oh, I'm finding an audience here on TikTok with like, just putting stories out or whatever the case may be. So I think, that's usually where we start. I don't think you can say like, oh, you need to post twice a week or twice a day on Instagram at these times. It varies so much.
What I heard you say is find your voice. Yeah. And, as a podcast host, it took me 40 to 50 episodes to really find my voice. And I think there's something to be said with taking the time to put yourself or whatever face you want for your track out there. And it's scary. Like I still get, I go live all the time and I still get, does anyone get like nervous going live?
I'm kind of nervous
no?
right now.
Y'all got, see, look, we got one honest person back there and he's doing the video.
Well, I think
Dennis.
my recommendation would be before you just start spraying and praying, just trying ads.
Yeah.
Two things: have a way to measure and know what you're going to measure. I'm kind of the geek in the room, so it's all about metrics for us. When we onboard a client, we put code on their website. We measure everything, because at some point you're going to have to make decisions. And if you don't have the metrics, then it's like going to school and never having a grade. You just don't know how smart you are or how dumb you are. And with digital, it's all about not doing bad things. You want to think you find the good things. If you remove enough things that didn't work, you end up with what's left, and it all rising tide lifts the boat. Second thing is, it's a mobile world. So before you jump into anything, if your website and if your social page is not mobile ready, don't do anything and fix that. Because the last thing you want to do is get somebody interested, especially if you're trying to get that outer ring. They come to your website and it's a horrible experience and it's a 1990s website. You want to make sure that they come in on their phone, they know what you're trying to do. It doesn't have to be fancy, it just has to be good or not bad, right? So those are the two things I would do before you start running different ads.
I think my follow-up to what you're saying, and Michelle, you hit on this, as bootstrapping businesses, bandwidth, right? You don't have a huge staff. Are there creative ways to get social, like to increase your spread, so to speak, of social media when you have limited funds and limited staff? What creative ways have you guys explored in being able to do more of a push with limited staff or funds?
I mean, there's a model of like Hero Hub and Hygiene, that YouTube used to use like back in my advertising days. But like kind of focusing on all those different points. But like as you said, Brian, like getting the basics down, right? Like we think about it like from a customer journey perspective. You don't need to have like everything everywhere, but if your touch points are like all on point, like if it's one channel that they find out about you and then one they go to dig deeper, it's like focus on those two things, and like kind of the foundation of it is like your standards, right? Like it's not anything tricky. It's like a really good website, lots of good information, and then good, kind of customer service through those different touch points to begin with, and like starting there. So like ground up, just like a house, like get the foundations right, focus on those, and then you have kind of a good flow as you start to introduce new stuff.
Chris, Grid Life, okay. Grid Life more than about just motorsports. It's a lifestyle event. We're hearing that word a lot in in the motorsports world, building these lifestyle brands. Can your type of an event be a way for track owners and promoters to maybe find new customers in their market?
I mean, certainly, like we're all entertainers, you know, and at the end of the day, right? So like the goal of like even just kind of the strategic nugget of like what Grid Life started with was like I love racing, I love going to the racetrack, but if I go to the racetrack and I'm not racing, you know, give me like a couple hours and I'm out. Same thing with like a car show or anything. Like I'm in the culture and I still like there's not enough to keep my attention. So the whole intention was to build something that like passes quickly, right? So many different touch points and so many different things so that you can get, you know, these car curious individuals that like don't feel like they're, you know, deep in the weeds in some sort of a nerdery they don't understand, you know? So I think, yeah, like diversifying like the entertainment experience, definitely. You know, I think as far as what we use music festivals to kind of bring that car curious audience in and music component. Music festivals are very, very difficult. So I wouldn't say that like, hey, everyone should do a music festival because there's just a lot of stuff, you know, in that. But you know, kind of diversifying the offering, and it's not just a motorsports event, but it has a whole bunch of other touch points and maybe like focuses in on another audience, you know, so it's like this has got you know, a real tight family component, or we're going to build like a summer camp vibe, and like what are those experiences. So you know, I think you know, definitely like people are looking for more, and if we're trying to bring people into the motorsports culture, sometimes we have to hook them with something else.
Brian, how much different does their digital approach need to be to get that new fan in the market without alienating their regulars?
That's a tough question. The good thing about digital is that each ad is personal. So every ad that we see, that's unique to you. So it's like direct mail. You bought a mailing list and you mail somebody. So one thing, if you're good with your targeting, you can advertise to new people with ads that aren't going to be seen by your followers. So for a good example is Michelle, her track is very close to a military base. And so there's a constant flow of new people coming in and in. We have specific campaigns to target new, you know, Marines and, you know, is it Army or Air Force? Both. Okay. So new servicemen and women who are into NASCAR, they came from Atlanta and they don't realize there's a track down the road from them. That ad is going to be seen by those type of people as opposed to somebody who follows this track and goes 20 times a year. So that's the first thing to remember, is that if you set up your targeting correctly, you can have different messages. You can have the family-friendly motorcycle race, and then when the guy shows up, it's going to have a bunch of these Harley, you know, clubs showing up, as well as parents who want to let the kids, you know, let the kids run loose on the roller coaster. So I guess that's the best way to answer, is think about different creative and different targeting.
Michelle, have you guys tried some specialty events up there at Alaska?
We've done a lot of things up there. COVID was a good year actually for us because we were able to have concerts. We had a fair because our state fair decided that they weren't going to open, so we had our own. We've got the space, so we might as well. The past year we did a Cash Days race where we drag raced at the top end of the track, kind of towards the starting line, which was a really, really good event. And then I know we've added a few different things. 1320 Video came up and they did a couple big events with us. We do concerts and festivals and whatever we can do to kind of get more eyes on the track. We've been there for 60 years, but it's amazing how many people have been, oh, I didn't know that this was even here. I'm like, dude, it's like, right? Do you not follow anything? So we try to get as many different things going out there as possible. And then this year we actually did a partnership with our Chamber of Commerce. They do a morning, I don't know, it's like a breakfast. Gosh, I don't even remember what it's called. But anyhow, it's a business thing they do in the morning. We had a bunch of people come out and we, you know, treated them to breakfast and showed them around the facility, because the more people that we can get coming out and seeing eyes on the track, the more that know that, hey, there's space here. We could come and have a retreat here, or you know, business meeting or things like that. So yeah, we'll do whatever.
Speaking of social media, if you post this anywhere today, hashtag RTBC23. Thank you very much. Those who have attended RTBC for any number of years know that my true calling was a game show host. Never got to do it. So I'm going to throw a toss-up question out, but this is just to allow me time to get questions from the audience. I've heard a lot of track owners tell me, well, if I just slap something up on Facebook, everybody's going to see it. And that's it. Does anyone want to answer that track owner about why that strategy won't be successful?
Well, Mark Zuckerberg is one of the richest people in the world, not because he allows you to post for free on Facebook and Instagram. The average post following, if you have is about 6%. So if you have 100 followers on your existing page, when you naturally post, you're going to see maybe 10 people who follow you actually see that post. And there'll be this little blue box that pops up that says, hey, would you like to boost this? That's how they make money. But when you boost a post, and this goes for all the social platforms, you're not really getting to set the controls on your targeting, the ad messaging, and et cetera. So that's kind of that's why they want you to buy ads, so that you pay your ads. Now you can take that post and still turn it into an ad. So just because you've got your daughter posting for you, don't assume that that's going to be your one and only marketing program. It's going to be naturally limited.
Yeah, I would add, like, when to get like real reach organically, it takes community building and community management. So like in lieu of an ad budget, to be able to like actually focus and get that message out to people, you have to be extremely active with the community and like foster that daily. And it is a ton of work, yeah, that even that, just like posting it and sending it out into the wild, it's not gonna get anywhere. You have to like kind of nurture it.
Any questions from the audience out here? Don't worry, I've got plenty if you don't. But it's a good idea to take advantage of these experts when you can. So if you got a question, raise your hand. We'll get a microphone to you. All right, I'm coming back there next. So there does seem to be an advertising overload right now online. Man, I cannot go anywhere without seeing things pop up. And I've gotten really good at avoiding them. Is there an overload right now? Just too many voices out there?
Absolutely, yeah. Like how we're fighting for attention, both digitally and physically, on the go, on our phones, in the home, is there's more content than ever has been before. Like the choices are unlimited. So I think there's like what's worked for us is just really focusing in on that brand, that authentic voice, and then like fostering the community, and trying to build things there, so that we can really, kind of build gravity around the stuff that we do. So that becomes like kind of the foundation. But absolutely, there's so much content out there.
All righty,
Keep in mind too, the average American spends about 8.5 hours a day looking at a screen where there are ads on them. And anyone who's got kids under the age of 18, it's higher than that. So yeah, there's ad overload, but there's lots of opportunities as well. So if you've got good targeting, hyperlocal, and it's a message, you can break through, because there's a lot of people just throwing things out there that you're going to scroll right by and not even notice.
But even if they're appearing to scroll on by, I mean, we see it in the radio industry, we're just bombarding their ears with a voice. And they might not need that product right then, but you're in their awareness by continuing to get your message out there. Question in the back.
Hey guys, April Clark with Babs Motor Speedway in Pennsylvania. What is the thought process of determining a budget, either for an event or branding? Are there different metrics you put on particular impressions? Is that a value? If you could just kind of explain that.
My budget this year changed. I kind of went with a metric that we used in my former printing company, and I went with a 10% for my bottom line. And then when I switched to Digital Throttle, I moved part of my bucket that I had placed somewhere else. I moved that entire thing over this year just to kind of see how it went, and it actually worked very well. Thank you guys very much. But,
Shameless plug.
yeah, shameless plug. Now, and we met last year here at RTBC PS. But that was kind of the thought process that I had, that 10% of my sales I was going to put into advertising for the next year so that I can continue to grow that. I don't know how other people come up with stuff, but that's what we did.
It's also math. So digital's all math. It's all, you're paying per click, per impression. In general, assume $8 for every 1,000 people that see your ad, no matter what the platform is. If it's search, assume $1.50 per click. So you can kind of work your way backwards. I want to get this many people in the seats, and you just kind of do your math. So you kind of say, I want to get 2,000 people. If 3% of the people who come to my website convert into a ticket, and you just kind of work your math upwards. And so it's the most old school thing there is, but direct mail and digital are actually very close to each other in terms of the business process that you follow. You buy a list, you mail things, you measure what it did, and you get an ROI. Digital works exactly the same.
Question from the class over here.
Hey, so I'm Tracy Schmidt with the Ridge Motorsports Park. So I'm intrigued to figure out between the different social media platforms. I've kind of come up with my own answers on it, but you have Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And something that I've kind of researched is the different age group demographics and where they're strong in each of those platforms. So for me, with the Facebook, I would say that's kind of more of the 30 to 50, maybe 25 demographic age group. And then your Instagram and your TikTok is for a younger age group. And so I'm intrigued to see your thoughts on that, because that's also going to play into where your media buy is going to be going. And then also with increasing your engagement on Facebook, I make sure with our staff that we go into each of those posts, and anybody that likes those posts, if they haven't followed us, we try to go knee deep within those analytics and make sure we're clicking on those so we can increase our follower count and everything. So I'm just intrigued to see your thoughts on the different demographics and age groups with these platforms now.
Yeah, I mean, that tracks. So Facebook, we jokingly call Facebook the QVC of social. It's an older audience, but surprisingly, older people have more money. So it might not be as sexy, but when you put ads on Facebook, you get people who click and buy. Instagram is more entertaining, kind of actually more female focused. TikTok's more female focused. Instagram's more male focused. On those specifically, Instagram and TikTok, you don't get the same number of clicks. So the big lion out there in terms of your hardcore motorsports person is still Facebook. Don't forget Twitter, X now. That platform is largely about following personalities and sporting events. If you're trying to get people who are followers of sports and personalities in those sports, Twitter's an excellent reach mechanism, not a very good direct response mechanism. But if you're a hardcore NFL fan, motorsports fan, F1 fan, you get your news through Twitter. So again, that kind of outer ring, I wouldn't forget that one.
Yeah, and I think the creative, like we have different creative for all those platforms too, so that's super, super crucial in regards to like how we present on each of those. And then in the music side, and kind of grabbing like that audience and that younger demographic, at least in paid, we've seen some good success with Snap as well. So like people forget about Snapchat, that still is used. People still use it, especially like younger demographics, right? So like if we're looking at like the funnel of the customer journey and like how we want to talk to people and where we want to get them for, especially if we're thinking forward, like I want this audience to be focused on my brand or my track, 3 years from now, 4 years from now, if you have the luxury to do so, looking at the creative and how it like funnels up through it. And then, with Facebook, that's the strongest community platform, right? So we use groups a ton. We engage with everyone that posts and reacts to those things. So, I think it's just different creative methods too.
One of my biggest pet peeves when racetracks or events post something on social is they leave off the activation. They make me jump through hoops to buy a ticket, and I've got a short attention span. So I will bail real quick. You need to have that call to action at the end of any advertising. Any more questions from the audience? All right.
Jess Hewitt with Hyperfuels. You haven't talked about YouTube channels, YouTube advertising. Could you spend a few minutes speaking about that?
YouTube's my personal favorite. Number one performing website for banner ads is actually YouTube for us. So a lot of people think of YouTube as a video platform, which it is. It's a fantastic branding opportunity, but you can still target banners in your market to specific channels and specific videos. Every time you see the URL change by watching a video, that video is targetable, is that a word? With either a banner or a video. But when we ever have a client that says, hey, I want to do Hulu or I want to do paid Netflix, we immediately just start moving them to YouTube because YouTube has the biggest thing going for it, which is it's clickable. So if you're back to my original comment of metrics, if you want to measure the effectiveness, people are watching a lot of YouTube on their phones, on their desktop. They can click on that ad. And so that'll give you a sense that, wow, I just spent this money. And a lot of these connected TV and over-the-top television platforms, they have minimums that are pretty high. And they also require a really fancy-looking video ad. YouTube, even if you have like a video you made on your phone, they will naturally only show it to people that are on phones themselves. So it's a great place to kick off if you want to do more television type advertising.
And those hype videos, man, if you got a 2-3 minute hype video, that has a lot of impact, especially in racing.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a lot of success with YouTube as well. I mean, I think, it's also good as like a content play, right? So like if you're trying to find that authentic voice and those types of things just from content, that's a great place to put it. But like, yeah, from a banner perspective and kind of pre-roll stuff, we've had a ton of success with that too, because there's so much of the automotive audience in particular that's fans of different channels and things like that. So they spend a lot of time there, and they're relatively engaged, and it can be pretty parallel to the things that they're watching.
If you're showing a hype video and it's even an advertisement on some other piece, you're going to hold their interest, unlike some of the real boring ads that are out there.
I just wanted to add to that is that we're in the motorsports entertainment industry, so we have a very exciting product to sell, and it doesn't take a whole lot to put together a quality video piece that shows the excitement of coming out to the races and the cars and the enthusiasm and the community that we're building and the family friendliness and things like that. So definitely take some time and put some of that stuff together. It doesn't have to be a Emmy award winning thing. I don't even know what those awards are, but it doesn't have to be the best product that you put together. It just needs to be, you need to be out there and you need to be showcasing it. You need to start somewhere so that you can keep building on it.
Hi, I'm Dave with Pit Race. You guys have talked about a lot of the platforms that we have. One that you haven't talked about is LinkedIn. Is that a platform that you've been seeing used more and more? It talks to the business customer, so.
We use LinkedIn ourselves, as well as we have a lot of clients, but it's primarily a white collar B2B environment. So if we have a client that's trying to reach their industry peers and influencers, it's really good. Crazy expensive. Like if you're paying $8 on social, LinkedIn, you could easily spend $60 to $80 on CPM. It's per thousand, cost per thousand. So sometimes we have clients dragging us, kicking and screaming to do LinkedIn because we know it's going to eat up a lot of their budget, but very, very targeted as well.
Clay Harshaw from Winston State University. Are there any emerging social media platforms that we need to be paying attention to?
I mean, I think not any that are like reached a point of saturation that like we've started investing in them. I mean, I think for a lot of like how many people are on TikTok? Like everybody probably not yet. So that's like already emerging, right? So like everybody knows they're supposed to be on it, but they haven't figured out how to speak on it. I mean, even our voice changes all the time on there. So like I haven't seen, there isn't anything that we're paying attention to necessarily that we think is on the cusp. I think there's TikTok being the newest, and kind of some Snap reemergence and things like that, and then also like different products that like Facebook introduced, like Reels, like kind of pops up and down. So like there's all this new stuff, Threads, so there's like different things that are coming like through, or different feature sets that are coming through the existing platforms that might be getting particularly in organic, like more reach at certain moments and things like that. So we try to focus in on that, like, oh, here's a moment, we need to create something that's fits in this in Threads for this moment if we want to capitalize on it and then jump there. So, but nothing like brand new that I'm aware of or that we're paying attention to.
Do you guys Discord? Oh, I'm back here. Yeah,
Discord,
no,
sure. Yeah, Discord. Yeah,
Where's
okay.
Jamie?
That's
Where's my red
that's
and
actually
white?
a good note. So like, we've used Discord as a community platform too. So like, that doesn't get mentioned.
Younger
It's-
demographic though.
Yeah, it's not really like a paid platform currently. So it's a community platform, but we use that pretty effectively with like a smaller audience, with our driver community specifically.
We've actually, the one, I guess, I don't know if it's emerging, but Reddit, we've actually had a lot of
Sure,
success
yeah.
with Reddit. People like to set themselves up with clubs and groups, and with Reddit you can join all these groups, whether you're following, topics or vehicle specific or whatnot. So we've actually seen Reddit, it's been around for a while, it's only the last couple of years that we've seen it kind of become as good a click rate as Facebook. It's just a lot smaller. So it's maybe like a third as big as Facebook is.
Right back here.
Thank you, Francisco Savigna from ePortrait. A question for Chris. You have done a brilliant job at creating a community and engaging your community. What I'm mostly interested in is when people start sharing your post. That is really when you see the audience booming, okay? So if it's an ad, if it's a post or whatever, and especially the bigger the name is, the bigger your reach is. So as a community manager, organizer, etc., do you have recommendation in terms of do and don't to have people sharing your post, sharing what you're doing?
There's ways to like kind of, it all comes down to like kind of the creative, and like I talk about like the authenticity, so like if you have a community and you have that momentum, like staying authentic and really strong brand creative is what's going to get kind of that share stuff. There's also paying attention to trends and paying attention to moments and trying to like capitalize and jump on those moments. So like, TikTok is certainly driven by trends. And I think if you set your brand up to be authentic, to adapt to those, then it works really well, and then you get, that kind of organic reach. Otherwise it's just like listening to your community and hearing the things that they want to hear about or the things that they engage with, and then like focusing in on that and tailoring your message and tailoring your content and the creative that you make, to them, and like giving them reason to engage. So, I think that's it's much more art than science when it comes to kind of that organic stuff with community stuff. But it's really about like the creative and the brand voice from the top down for us.
With all the different social platforms, I feel like the way those platforms engage are slightly different. Like Twitter, Instagram might be more photo-based. But in terms of the different formats of media, like photo versus video versus then like maybe taking videos and editing them down to shorts, where should we be maybe investing our energy in preparing different media formats?
We actually just did we just did a study. Static images, better click rate, better conversion than video. This time last year, it was video by a little bit. So the nice thing on that is that we have a rule, 3 audiences, 2 ads. So that's 6 combinations that we give the platforms to kind of test and measure. So we'll always make a static and a video. 2/3 of the time, the static is far and away the better one. So for you as a creative, taking a photo and making it square so it takes up a nice space on the mobile phone again is better than spending thousands of dollars and hours making this beautiful video. Because at the end of the day, when you're going through social, all your friends are posting videos, there's videos everywhere organically. It's almost like a static one stands out. It's like something's not moving and the caveman in us goes, I must look at it. You know, and so I think the novelty of static right now stands out.
So I'm selfishly asking questions because I put myself in your guys' bucket as an entrepreneur and bootstrapper. When we talk about social media, we talk about expenses typically. Content, advertising on it, but what I feel like in general isn't talked a lot about in business conferences is how you can generate revenue from it. Because YouTube's a perfect example. There's people who that's their full-time job. Their entire existence, and they own homes and all kinds of stuff just off of YouTube revenue. Can you talk a little bit about how maybe a business can maybe set itself up not only for creating great content, but maybe it could turn around and actually generate some revenue for the business as well?
I mean, I think the YouTube game in regards to like is a very, very tough one and pretty saturated at this moment. I mean, I think in regards to like revenue generation from content, you know, I think we partner a lot with a lot of different content creators to like kind of bring them through the ecosystem, you know, and then you know, authentically try to like capitalize on their reach to like provide revenue from other sources, right? We're trying to get people at our events, you know. So I think we've talked about like starting, and it's interesting because a lot of the like big automotive YouTubers started at exactly the same time as us. So right around 2013, we were founded in 2013. So, you know, Adam LZ and a few others, you know, that are big YouTubers now all started with their push, you know, at that moment. So had we taken a different path with volume and story, you know, like that would have been different. At this point, you know, it's a really heavy lift, and the amount of work and the amount of like content. I mean, they're pushing out stuff every day, so it is possible, but it's about frequency, you know. And like the stories don't have to be particularly elaborate, but they do have to connect, and they do have to have that authenticity. And probably the best way to get that is like you're putting out something interesting every day in some regard, or at least mundanely interesting, which is a lot of YouTube content in some cases. But it's just about like that frequency and the workload of like push. What's going on at the track today? What's going on at the track today? So if you keep that up, there's a possibility that definitely could be, you know, a revenue generator. But also like probably the back end benefit is it's more story into the totality of what you do, you know, and what the track does or what the series does and that type of stuff. So
have you had any of the success around like TikTok lives? Like I see people on there, it blows my mind of how people make money on there. It's the most ridiculous stuff.
Yeah,
all they're doing is live.
Yeah, I guess like TikTok as a you know, like a platform, like we don't use it at that level of depth yet, but like that's you know, it's a lot of edutainment and things like that, you know, are definitely effective there. You know, but again, it's the same story. It's frequency, right? It's the amount of times that you're exposing yourselves, the amount of story that you have, and like how often you do it, you know, which is in most cases daily for long periods of time.
All right, now I know this might come as a shock to you, but I'm a big influencer in the hair care product line. Didn't think you'd believe that. Have you used influencers at all to help kind of give a juice to your message, or does that just not work in the racing space?
It's a crucial component of everything that we're going to be doing moving forward. So like the influencer economy and the attention economy that's around those types of individuals and that type of content is like absolutely paramount at this point. So the ability for us as promoters and you know, and racetracks to become influencers is definitely there, but it's a little bit of a difficult path forward because we have so much other stuff on the whiteboard, you know, to focus on. So we bring kind of influencers through our ecosystem and allow them to kind of create content authentically and organically within it, you know, and then try to kind of pull those nuggets and things of that nature. So like, if you're not engaged in talking with influencers at this point, like that's going to be probably your next step from a brand and you know, just a creative perspective. So how it ties into paid is like the output you get from it in most cases for us, but just from a brand perspective, it's like getting them into your ecosystem.
We've used a lot of influencers. It's all kind of happened organically. We happen to have a beautiful racetrack, and then I will argue that it is better looking than any other racetrack here, but it draws a lot of attention to our track. And so we were fortunate to hook up with the guys from 1320 Video, and they adore Alaska, and so they have been up, and that has created a lot of stuff for us. So to go back to what you were talking about with YouTube and trying to create your own channels, I don't have enough bandwidth to put together something interesting enough to be on YouTube all the time, but we're able to connect with the guys from 1320 or some of the other partners that we've gotten with, and so they can come up and do stuff, and it works together to grow our brand more organically. So we don't get paid directly from YouTube or from whatever, but it does bring a lot of attention to our track. I spent a lot of time for our group creating the community out there by doing our track talk, which is on Tuesdays on Facebook and on YouTube Live, and that's kind of growing. Like, I'm kind of becoming an influencer in our own area, I guess, and so I'm kind of working on that. But I also am one person and don't have a whole lot of time, so we're trying to I guess my big message here is there's a lot of different options out there. Don't kill yourself trying to do all of them, because you will fail miserably. So pick one or two that you do really well and focus on that. And if you want to go into TikTok or something, which I'm sure is something we should be doing, but hire somebody, recruit somebody within your organization or a fan or a racer or something to help you with that, so that you can continue to do it, because you don't want to put it out there and have it be bad. Like you were saying earlier, do you want to send them to your website and your website sucks? So make sure that you've got all your ducks in a row before you get started.
And one thing to add about, kind of saying, you become an influencer kind of within your circle. It's like, we talk about like a top-down, bottom-up influencer strategy too. So when we say influencer, we think 1.5 million followers, 900 million views, and it doesn't have to be that. There's so many different individuals that are extracting stories from our community and our tracks and our things at all different levels. So, having a few, in kind of that mid-tier, even like starting with some individuals that are trying. Like, we work with a channel called Gears and Gasoline, and they were one of the when they started their channel, I think they had maybe 6,000 followers. They just crossed 1 million, and like all the stories, they don't produce content for our channel necessarily, but they produce content about the experiences that we build, so like we grow with them. So I think that's one of the big things with influencer marketing is it's like, we can't tell all of our stories, so we need to like tap other people to help us tell our stories. So and I think it's a super powerful tool, one, for getting that authenticity and that narrative out there, but two, capitalizing on the back end, and you can turn that stuff into more traditional ads and marketing that becomes focused.
Like all of our panels today, we could feature a whole day to talking about all the different things within digital marketing. So if you did not have your questions answered here, please reach out to these individuals anytime. It's great to get their expertise. It is time to wrap things up. Brian, a final thought, and don't be shy. Let us know how we can get in touch with you.
Well, first of all, we get a little display across the way here, so that's easy. You can always reach us on digitalthrottle.com. I guess with digital, it is overwhelming because there's too many options. I think Michelle said it best. Pick a few things and stay focused on it, measure it, and go from there. The beauty of digital is that if you think of an ad today, it can be running tomorrow. So you don't need to overthink it. You can jump into it, but definitely do something and kind of get yourself on the road. With people spending 8.5 hours a day, you got to figure this out. This has to be a core competency for every marketer, and I think especially someone who lives in a local market, your ability to reach pretty much everyone you want to, it's there. You just kind of got to get get started.
Michelle, a final thought.
Thank you guys for having me. But I'm available all weekend if you guys have questions, or I'm really easy to find online. So Alaska Raceway Park on all of the social medias, Lady Track Boss on Facebook and Instagram. Yeah, I'm working on that. You know, if there's something that I can do to help you guys grow your track, definitely let me know, because I would love to do that.
Chris, take us home.
Yeah, so we're here all week. We've got a booth in the showroom, so you can come and stop by and say hi to any one of us. I'll have the rest of the team, my co-founder, and other individuals there. You know, I think, you know, as a final thought in regards to, you know, marketing, like, what's worked for us is just creative authenticity and the brand voice, right? So, like, starting with that, you know, opens up a lot more, you know, a lot of different options in different layers and different avenues from a marketing perspective. So, like, I think that's kind of my final thought on all of it, is like strong brand, you know, and you know, those consistent and, you know, thoughtful foundations are like the primary start for anything.
What did we learn from this panel? A lot, but specifically, there are so many different ways to reach an audience. You have to learn how to use them all, and hey, don't be afraid to ask somebody like Digital Throttle to give you a hand. Specialty events can be a great way to hook new people, but you need to be authentic to your brand first and foremost, and don't be afraid to be unique. Use that still picture instead of a video. I love that advice. And you have to know how to measure success. That is the big key in all of this. Let's give this group a round of applause.